Hello, everyone, and welcome to Toxic Masculinity and Dating in Ukraine. I want to thank Joe and Anna for allowing me this opportunity. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. I'd like to start with a definition of toxic, and that is of relating to or caused by a toxin or other poison, capable of causing injury or death, especially by chemical means, poison. That's toxic. The next is masculinity, the quality of being masculine, masculine character, or traits. The state or quality of being masculine and masculineness. The degree of property being masculine or masculineness. Now, the reason I brought those up is that the term masculinity doesn't actually exist. It is contrived and constructed for another agenda. Let me put it that way. Um, Context and usage are part of the English language, and this isn't a lesson on all that, but I want to bring up the fact that lots of times, phrases are brought in that actually deter us from what we are really talking about. And what we're really talking about today is masculinity. So I want for all of you to kind of take a moment and just kind of remember back when you were younger, the first time you drove your car. I want you to think about how much fun that was. I want you to think about the first race you ran in sports, or the first time you got an A+ in essays or whatever in school. Remember those victories you had? Do you remember how wild at heart you were? Remember you couldn't wait to just, go after anything it was you wanted. We somehow have gotten away from all of that energy, that through basically cultural brainwashing. We're all from different cultures, but we're all here for the same reason, and that is we're not getting from our culture, whatever that may be, the kind of relationship we want from women. So if I could have the women's equality picture, please. Yeah, there we go. So men of quality respect women's equality. And I know all of you guys respect women's equality. And that's why I wanted to bring that slide up. We're not against anybody here. We're not trying to, point fingers at other people or other ideas and so forth and so on. If they want to have their agendas and so forth, that's fine. However, we are for each other. And so when you start thinking about all of the times that you had victories in the past, one of the main differences is that in our cultures, we have been programmed to believe that being masculine is bad. That's why it's called toxic masculinity. That's why in the definition, the word poison is used. So you can see usage and context. Excuse me. Usage and context brings about a distortion of really what we're talking about. So I want you to kind of get that passion again. I want you to kind of think about what it felt like to be passionate about yourself, about your masculinity, about being a man, about life, because all of us have lost a little bit of that. And there's a reason I'm bringing all this up, of course. I'll detail into that eventually. So how do we as men define our masculinity? How do we as men keep what we have in ourselves that we know is right and develop our passion for life again? And if you have a passion for life, that's great. Like right now, I'm passionate about this topic. Some people in our culture, in my culture in the United States here, would consider me being angry or something like that. And that's not really the case. The case is that, I really enjoy working with men, and I really enjoy watching good things happen. And part of the reason that that's important is, and part of the reason it's possible, is community. So a lot of the things that are being taught to us through our culture is that we should isolate ourselves, like the MGTOW movement and so forth and so on. Men go their own way. You should do it on your own. This and that and the other and so forth. That can't be further from the truth. So I encourage all of you to start finding, if you don't already have friends, male friends, to create a community. And I'm not talking about general community. I'm talking about just men to men. You see, men sharpen men. When a chef, for example, goes to cook and he's sharpening his knife, he's not sharpening it on wood, he's sharpening it on metal. And so men sharpen each other. Iron sharpens iron. So if you're going to church, for example, hook up with your men's group. If you don't have a men's group, start one. If you're on your own, is in your work and your job and so forth, you're doing work that's pretty much remote and you're all by yourself and so forth, find a group of men that you can relate to and that you can work with that are like-minded, men that are interested in marrying, men that are interested in marrying a foreign lady. These are things that you want to sort of fold into your life, because toxic masculinity, you're right, toxic masculinity is nonsense. So I'm not going to use the word toxic and masculinity from this point on. Let's just say it that way. Masculinity is how it's defined in the being that you are. And that being is part of the community of men that you relate to, a part of the community of men that you develop, because it's in that community that you can be accountable to yourself and you'll have an accountability partner. And there's all kinds of guys waiting to do this. It's not like you got to pull teeth and so forth and so on. There's so many men that are really wanting to have a relationship, a great relationship, the men that have been burned and so forth and so on. And they're ready to move away from that. All you got to do is find them. And if you're trying to find someone and you're having troubles, contact us. I'll be more than happy to help you. So that's community. Now, an interesting statistic is, of all the suicides on Earth, this is the whole planet, 75% are men. I got to believe that those 75% were either not in community with other men or didn't have the right community with men and were believing things about themselves because of our cultures that aren't true. These are limiting beliefs that we don't need. They're not who we are. They're what we believe we are. So that's the masculinity part of this, if you will. That is that is the part that we feel bad about right now. So I'd like to move into the part where it's a lot more fun. Okay, and I want you guys to think about what I'm going to say here next. In the next part of it, we're going to move into the dating in Ukraine and why we put that in the title. So what I want to talk about is the jewels of Ukraine. And I'm not talking about wheat berries, boys. I'm talking about women. I'm talking about women who respect men. I'm talking about women who understand masculinity, who want a masculine male. And if we bring to the table to them what we've been taught in our cultures, we're going to find ourselves in a complete quandary. It's going to be even more compounded and more confusing. These are ladies that have intellect. How's that for an idea? Have a deep conversation with your girl. They also have wit. They're funny. They understand humor. And you know what? They don't mind humor. Like a lot of the women here in the United States, they don't appreciate humor anymore because everybody's so worried about offending each other and so forth and so on. These ladies also are, I don't want to, we can use the word traditional values because that always sounds like, it's going backwards, but it's not. What we're really talking about is we're talking about family values, where if you want to create a family, some of you younger guys and some of the guys that are maybe in middle age and they want a child because they've never had a child, these ladies adore that. They all really appreciate that. That's so paramount, and it is innate in their culture. If you were to use the word toxic masculinity to them, they wouldn't even know what you're talking about. There's no translation for it because it's a nonsense, like we just saw a minute ago here. Um, so now I want you to try something. Oh, and by the way, here's another great part of it. These ladies are smoking hot, right? And so what a beautiful icing on the cake. And they're sincere. And I could go on and on and on, but you get the idea, you get the point. And so now what I'd like you to do is pretend like there's a bag in front of you, a brown bag. And you want to put in that brown bag all the limiting beliefs you have about dating in Ukraine and about the Ukrainian culture. And I want you to put all the fears you have about dating Ukrainian women. And I want you to put all of the cultural impediments that have been brainwashed into you into that bag. Can you visualize that in front of you? Just take a moment to think about all the things that when you hear them in our culture, you know that's not you. That's not who you are. That's not how you operate. Put it in that bag, and now that you've got them all in that bag, I want you to burn that bag, and I want you to let go of all that stuff. You have to look at all of the things that you've been told and completely wipe them dry. And I want you to start with an open mind. I want you to start thinking about what it would be like dating for the first time. Remember your first kiss, going back again to your victories. I want you to develop that passion. I encourage you, I invite you to look back into who you are and present that to the lady that you want to date in Ukraine. Bring who you are, not who you've been told to be. Don't forget the community. So when you go to, when you start to date and you start to make contact with this lady, have your friends, your buddies, your system keep you going. Have them hold you accountable for all the things that you say you want to do and all the ways you want to change. If you feel you might be a little heavy, then change it. Grab a accountability partner. If you feel like, I'm a great cook, but I want to learn dancing, go and learn dancing. Bring these new things to the table because these ladies will appreciate it all. There's nothing they're going to say that's going to demean you like we're used to. So you use your resources here at Match Guarantee. If you have questions, of course, feel free to call. We have, of course, Joe and Anna, who are wonderful at coaching. They're wonderful at any questions you have regarding dating in Ukraine. We have a top-notch matchmaker. We have a bunch of great coaches. By the way, I'm not only a coach, I'm also a client, so I can relate to you in both directions. We have a great administration here. Jana is in our administration. I'm sure a lot of you have already talked to her. She's fantastic. So use the resources that are available to you. And I'm saying all this because when it comes time for you to actually meet eye to eye, and you bring to the table this man who's powerful in his masculinity, who's passionate about life, who is loving, who is lovable, I want you to exude that. And I want you to exude that to a point where you're going to have to hand this lady a hand fan because she's going to have to cool off. Think about those possibilities. Now, I'm not saying I want you to just bowl her over completely and wipe her off the table, that kind of stuff. What I'm asking is think of the possibilities of who you could be if you really wanted to be from yourself, from your standards, from who you are. And I guarantee you're going to have success with this. And again, I'm going back to the community. They will see it, and that will help them. So I think I've talked long enough. Between the definition and the cultural impediments we have driven into us with masculinity, my asking you to let go of all of that And I would encourage you to visualize this more and more and bring this into your life. Okay. And I just want to say that the most important thing I want you to remember, and the most important thing to take away from this, because this is a beginning, be in your being just masculine. I thank you for your time. And now I'd like to open up for questions and answers. I understand your side, but your younger men are thought the wrong way to be. You need to see under that garbage. Yeah, that's very good. Is there a question in there, George? Do we have a question, Joe? Hello. Okay, I need a male group. Sincerely, some man would be a great advocate for a guy like myself. So, Roland, let me ask you, what are your circles? I mean, do you have people that you meet, guys that you meet for, like, a drink or a talk all the time? Is there guys like that you're in your life? And let's see, Eric, as a younger man under 30, this topic needs to be spread. MG Toe has it backwards. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think that community is, again, the most important thing, and I think that you're poking at that as well. Um, so you're under 30. Wow, man, keep going. You're doing a great job already. That's awesome. And Tony, I remember back in high school, I got yelled at for holding the door for a girl. She gave me the death stare, and that scared me for life. I'm not laughing at you, buddy. I'm laughing at the ludicrous idea that you're practicing social protocol and being polite, and it's being condemned. This is the limiting belief. You just said it right here. Uh, and that scared me for life. That's a limiting belief, Tony. Don't buy it for a second. Throw it in that bag and burn it. You don't need it. It doesn't build you anything. Anything that has to do with fear cannot build anything. It's always about faith. So have the faith to move forward. Go past all that stuff. Let your creative self bring who you are out. Because I don't want to hear that you're scared you for life. You have to change that. You got to get back to it and say, I'm passionate about myself. I love myself. I'm lovable, and I can do this. And I have men that will prove it. I have evidence of this. Thank you, Tony. I really appreciate that. Hey, Roland, you're back. I just want a woman that wants me. I don't get this world. We live in the Western world. Yeah, that's exactly the idea, Roland. You're on the right track, man. And keep looking at the Ukrainian culture if you haven't already. And if you can find someone who's like in a community club or something like that that is affiliated with Ukrainian people, get affiliated with them. Start asking them questions. You'll learn so much about the women that after a while you're not even going to want to look at the Western cultures anymore. It would be ridiculous for you. And at your age, you got the world by the tail, man. It's all about you. You can do whatever you want to. Get that wild at heart feeling again. Get yourself some victories. Get rid of all that stuff that you've been programmed to believe is true, because it's not going to serve you whether you go to Ukraine or not. It's never going to serve you in any other area of life. For a man who has not had much experience in women, I'm still wondering why our United States and do other women still want the masculinity and us. I have sisters, and you're the only boy. So, yeah, the women are starting to find out here in the United States more and more that there's all kinds of problems with the cultural norms and the cultural brainwashing, quite frankly, that the United States is going through. And some physical manifestations of that are our reproduction in the United States is down for the first time. Sperm count in men is down. Testosterone levels are down. And I submit to you that the best way, there's two ways. Of course, physically, you have to take care of things, but spiritually and mentally, get into a masculine community, just men. You don't have to talk about anything else. You don't have to solve any problems. Just be a man. Just be yourself, and have guys that will hold you accountable and say, "Hey, that's a bunch of baloney. You don't need to do that. You don't have to accept that when you open the door for a lady and she gives you the death stare, that there's something wrong with you. You know, just next time that happens, look at her and say, I open doors for men too, by the way, and then go through the door. I'm not trying to be difficult or mean or anything like that, but it's okay to be dangerous, guys. It's okay to be dangerous. And I don't mean like, gun wielding and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you're a little bit unpredictable, okay, so what? You're a man. That's the way you are. You're being a man. And you see, masculinity is a good thing. I mean, talk to any firefighter or first responder. They'll tell you they need to draw on their masculinity to do what they do. And Eric says, what would you tell younger men on dating? I guess dating advice for young men. That's another topic. That's a really good, whoo, boy. In a few minutes here that we have, I don't know that I could go over that. That's the kind of thing that would be more of a coaching. We could probably figure something out, but that would be more of a coaching thing because that is very specific to you, to the person. I'm not trying to skirt your question. I guess what I would say in a general sense is start with yourself and find out what you're believing that has nothing to do with who you are. Okay. Who you are is a good man. You're masculine. You're love. You can be loved. You have a passion for life. If you feel like you're not completely there, again, develop that. The whole point of this is when you become who you really are and who in your maleness, if you will, these Ukrainian women are not going to be able to resist you. And why not? Why would that be a problem? Why would, what's wrong with having a woman adore you? There's nothing wrong with it, you know? And you automatically respond by loving her and loving her and loving her. George says, do you think the Western feminism doing good or very big problems? Oh boy, these are big topics. I did ask for questions, so I can't say anything. I can speak for the United States. And the feminist movement in the United States started off with a really great intention because there were so many problems that needed to be addressed. Unfortunately, here, that whole thing has been corrupted by marketing. It is now a game almost, and people make money off of it, and it's taken completely off of the original intention. So yes, I think, and I can prove it. There's plenty of documentation that the feminist movement in this country started off with a great idea and is now stalled out. This is my opinion. Again, I can provide you with evidence, proof of what I'm talking about. You have women, lots of women, who are talking about what happened to the men, and that's their deal. I mean, that's not what this is about. What this is about is just masculine. It's us guys getting together and sharpening each other. Like I said, men sharpen men. There's no other way to do that. And if you're not being sharpened by a man, and it doesn't matter what age you are. I mean, for you younger guys, older guys like me, all we have is wisdom to offer you. You have to come up with your answers. And if we can help you with that and find the answers within, that's all the better. That's all part of the sharpening process. In my opinion, in your opinion, what makes a healthy marriage? Ooh, boy, how should I be with women? As a man, the one thing you have to remember when approaching a woman is to love her. The second thing is to love her. And the third thing is to love her. I know that sounds redundant. My point is this. When you approach your woman, approach her from a state of love, of loving her. That's her communication. If you approach her from any other mindset or being, it's going to confuse the issue. You got to let her know that you're bringing whatever it is to the table, whatever question, whatever ideas, whatever leadership you have is coming from a loving standpoint. It's coming from your heart. It's coming from sincerity. And that will open the communication. So, that's just one part of a healthy marriage. I would say that a healthy marriage starts with a healthy individual, both the man and the woman. So if you are loving yourself, and if you know you're lovable and you can provide love and you can provide passion and you can provide great conversation, you're outward focused, all of that will help in a general sense, of course, with a healthy marriage. And that's, by the way, after losing my marriage and my family and picking up the pieces. Gregory, are you a client or are you actually married to a Ukrainian? Okay, so I'm both a client and a coach. I am not married to a Ukrainian yet, but Joe has given me the guarantee that will happen. And I believe it too. There's a lot of play going on in that area and changes being made. But one day I will be making an announcement on this channel that I'm engaged. So thank you for that question. It's a very interesting position to be both coach and client because I'm able to speak to you guys from both states of mind. Any other questions? Thanks again, Greg. Appreciate your asking. And again, that's a huge topic. George, do you think a single mother can raise a boy properly to be a good man? Absolutely, definitely not. Nothing personal against single moms. My daughter is a single mom. I know friends of mine who are single moms. Again, I'm going to go back to the male community. And I'm glad you asked this question because the male community starts at an early age. Think back about your uncles or your father or men that were in your life when you were young who poured good stuff in. What memories you have if you start thinking about that men started sharpening you. That's what those memories are about. And if you look back, you can see that's what you need. It doesn't stop. It's not like, you reach 18 and you don't need any more sharpening. A woman cannot impart masculinity to a young boy. Okay. When you, at 7 years old, go fishing for the first time, that's a very, very special moment. And those moments, those victories should continue on. And as your life continues, you get to give back to the guys coming up. It's a process. And this is why when we break those lines, when we don't have community, when we have challenges, there's a chance for limiting belief, for cultural impediments to start pouring in, and that fear factor starts destroying who you are. you'll never be destroyed completely. You can always restart. You can always go back to who you really are as a man. And again, finding a good community of men who are interested in sharpening men is your very first step. And please don't forget the resources here at Match Guarantee. We have all, you won't know until you start asking questions. Let's put it that way. Come on, guys, you got to have some more questions here. Okay. Sorry, guys. Oh, what? Support if you get me. But the harp, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's very good. Thank you, Joe. So, Info Seeker. Basis of Sex is a 2018 American biographical legal drama film based on the life and early cases of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who served as an associate justice. Very interesting. So tell me, Alan, what is the gist of that? What is the most important point as it relates to what we're talking about here? Because I have not seen that movie. That sounds interesting. Okay, so Jim, I hate to disagree with you on this feminist issue. He was actually funded by the globalist pigs to bring down the family values and break up the family unit. Yes, and create a secondary tax base. Oh, that's interesting. I'm glad you're disagreeing because I like discourse. My point is as it relates to our masculinity. And so again, I'm not here to point fingers at anybody else, or compete with feminist ideals and so forth and so on. I'm actually here to support you guys. I'm here for men. I'm here for all of the things we've been talking about, or I've been talking about anyway. And that Rolando, excuse me, I called you Roland. I'm sorry, Rolando. I have friend, he is caught in trying to please a woman. I have friends I talk with over the phone, don't really see them, so not a lot of outlets for close male contact circle. Okay, now that I've brought this into your mind, I believe you're going to start seeing more opportunities to develop that. And Rolando, if you're having a challenge with that, and if there's any way that I can help you, I'd be more than happy to help offline and through Match Guarantee, and we can talk about those things. We can talk about because there's a whole lot of things available. One of them is the Mankind Project, and the Mankind Project, if you Google that, you'll find that it's absolutely an incredible movement here in the United States. I hope that answered your question. Eric, there is a huge indoctrination on American society on how we act and think. Yes, there is. Is it like that in Ukraine? That would be a question for Anna or Joe. I have not personally been to Ukraine yet. First it was COVID, now it's the war. However, there are similarities. I think that we have probably the world's best indoctrination program here in the United States, to include brainwashing and so forth. Quite frankly, I don't think that would be the case in Ukraine. And the reason I say that is I just got to believe that after surviving communism, they understand propaganda really well. And here in the United States, we're dealing with propaganda. We're dealing with things that don't apply, that aren't, they're lies. They're like the term toxic masculinity. It's a complete farce, but it's effective. And it's effective because, like I said, they've commandeered the usage and the context of where they use that particular phrase. There's no two ways about the indoctrination here. We have tons of commercials that we go through every day, whether it's on the radio or TV or whatever. And all of that programming, we actually ingest, whether we see it or not, we're taking it in. And so again, the best thing you can do is talk about that with other guys and get rid of it. Find out the stuff you're believing that is wrong, or at least is not healthy for you, or that is, inaccurate, and dump it, burn it, get it in that bag and throw it away. Burn it, because it can't help you in any. I don't care what you do. It doesn't matter if you decide you don't want to get married after all. Everything in life that you're going to head into is going to be distorted by your limiting beliefs. So as soon as you get rid of the limiting beliefs and understand who you really are, and understand and like yourself and love yourself, everything else, all your other relationships will become more healthy. And that's a proven fact. That's not my opinion. Ukraine's social, and here we go. Thank you, Joe. Is simple and masculine. Men are men and women are women. There you go. Doesn't like it being simple. That's short and sweet, and that's exactly that's a really good point, because that's exactly what it should be. Celebrate the differences between men and women. This whole idea that we're equal, and now we've got guys that are identifying as women and competing in women's sports. I mean, all of this it's all, there's X chromosome and there's XY chromosome, and that's it. It's just as simple as traditional social roles are gender specific, and some, as it's been for thousands of years. Again, thanks, Joe. This is, and by the way, Ukraine as a country has been around for 1,000 years. At least Kiev has been, and in that entire 1,000 years, Ukraine has never attacked another country. And I want you to think about that, because that points to a very special cultural. That's a very special culture. Let me put it that way. And it's the kind of thing you want to look at and say, what makes these people not want to attack somebody else? It's not in their blood. They've been attacked many, many times, but they have not attacked themselves, gone out and attacked other people. Eric, Jim, have you done any research into the way public schools teach students? Oh boy, yes, I have. To answer your question, it's been a minute since I looked into it, but from what I recall, the majority of the school system teaches for the female. Okay, so there's definitely a bias. There's definitely a bias there. I saw it in my stepsons, the teachers. I see it today with a lot of what's going on. And again, I think a lot of it is agenda. But that would be another topic. I'm glad you asked the question. I don't know, maybe in the future we'll address that too, because it does relate to you guys that want to have kids, that want to have a family. You got to be ready for this kind of stuff. And Eric says, men and women learn differently, and the school mainly teaches a way for how a woman thinks. Absolutely. Even though we make a big deal about ADD, ADHD, and so forth, which occurs in both men and young boys and young women, the system is set up to ignore what's going on with the young ladies and focus more on what the young men need to be, I'm just going to say it, to be neutered. I'm sorry, but that's exactly what it is. Again, this is my opinion. Let's see. Yeah. God created a woman from man. Eve came from Adam. That's right. And I agree with that. And that's where I have the idea that if you approach a woman from a, from a outward perspective of love, of loving her, because God created this, it will work, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. And call it whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it the universe, that's cool too. The point is, there is a higher being that is put this all together. And when we walk away from that, or when we move away from it, we are on our own. We start doing things that are, that are going to make trouble for us, that are unhealthy for us. So, yeah, I agree with you. Tony, we can handle the hard part, Joe. We are men, so we need to fight our battles. Like my father says, hardship builds character. Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, because you're already saying that you're not going to be scared for the rest of your life. Really appreciate that, Tony. Okay, so there's different perspectives on how to deal with trouble. However, I like the idea that the Stoics had. Guys like Caesar and Marcus Aurelius, and what he said was amor fati, which is love the fate. Okay, when something happens to you, love the idea that something happened to you, and that you have the opportunity to overcome, that you have the opportunity to build your character. Uh, it's just like working out. When you do a workout, you're actually tearing your muscles a little bit, so that it stimulates your muscles, so that you build muscle. It's the same way. Your character needs, especially men, your character needs to be challenged. You guys need challenges, because you thrive on victories. That's a fact. That's why I wanted you to go back and think about all the victories you had in the past. Shun, am I saying that? Hope I'm saying that right. Sorry. What are you talking about? Although it seems as if Ukraine, or in this case, the Kiev regime, is the victim, it's actually the first aggressor, as it threatened to join EU and NATO. Putin will not allow. Oh, I understand what you're saying. No, that's more of a political issue. What I'm talking about is the Ukrainian people themselves. I'm not talking about governments. That's not. It's the culture that I really was talking about. What we're looking at today is more about politics, and I don't really want to get into politics on this. Eric, being an American man, would it be best to raise a family in Ukraine or America? Wow. How about both? How about melding the best of both cultures? I mean, it's your family. You have the responsibility, but you also have the right to make choices. There's a lot of things about the Ukrainian culture I would absolutely, definitely bring into my children if I had that chance. And I'm sure there's a lot of things about the American culture. I mean, in the United States, we don't really have, in my opinion, we don't really have a culture. If you want to call it a culture, it's more about opportunity. The United States has a culture of opportunity. However, there's an influence of many cultures in this country, and all of those cultures have provided us with incredible opportunities, with incredible ideas, and that's what has helped to make this country what it is. But it's not the best country in the world. I spent 2 years in Germany in the military, and looking at life through a different culture is one of the best things that could ever happen. And the reason is, there's just different perspectives you get from other cultures. So in this case, my answer would be incorporate the best of both. I don't believe, and today, especially with the internet and so forth, I mean, we can travel far distances in a short period of time. Communication is so much better. There really wouldn't be much reason to only raise in one country or one culture or the other. So that would be the way I ask it or answer it. And if you're planning on starting a family, I wish you all the best. It can be the most being a father is one of the most rewarding experiences I ever had in my life, and still is, by the way. So yeah, that's what I would do, or that's how I would answer your question. Figure out between you and your wife what the best of the Ukrainian culture has to offer and what the best of the United States has to offer, and put them together, and bring those kids up in the best of the two worlds. Wow, these are great questions, guys. I really appreciate this. I'm happy that you're tuned in. I'm happy you're participating. It's very important. And from Joe, we have match guarantee. We have to prove just how much Ukrainian women love masculinity and respect it. Ukrainian women have a saying: Ukrainian men go to army a boy and come back a man. I love it. And that's the case. That's the truth. You know, you gotta treat this like a quest, guys. This is not to find yourself as a man or anything like that. Although this is really good to know, because now you have the flexibility to be who you really are. Approach dating a Ukrainian woman as though it's your top level quest, and enjoy it. There's so many things you can create out of this, and she's going to want to participate in that. That's going to be very attractive to her. The man, this in this comment, man is spelled in all caps, and that's a really good thing. I like that idea. I think that when we speak about men, it should be in all caps all the time. Shun. They say USA has no culture, perhaps because there are not many folks, uh, folks, or folk. Oh, I see, folk elements, but there is one. Problem is, everything happened recently, like, oh, that's a good one, like the wokes, cancel culture, and so forth. You know, cancel culture is another one of those commandeered terms in terms of usage and context. Uh, if there is such a thing as cancel culture, then that culture would be canceled and we wouldn't have it. So again, be careful, not you specific, but all of us men need to be very careful about how words are used and how they're defined and what context it is, because otherwise you'll go running off in the wrong direction and it won't help anybody. And then being a leader, I invite you to be very careful about how you take the direction of the people you're leading. Whether you believe you're a leader or not doesn't matter. You are a leader. There is that responsibility, and there's people that are looking up to you right now. If I don't care how you could be in your 20s, you could be a man in your 20s, and there are young men that are looking up to you. So you have to be responsible for that. Joe says, guys, do you want to see a real cool manly video, 10 seconds long? Say yes.
Match Guarantee is the real deal. Match Guarantee kicks ass.
I guess go ahead and play it, Joe.
Match Guarantee is the real deal. Match Guarantee kicks ass.
Is it muted? Hello? Well, anybody want to see the video? Joe, do we have any more comments? That's it for cues. Okay. Should I wrap up or? Oh, okay. I think I covered everything that I had planned on. So let's do a little review. Um, let's look at the the community idea again, because it seems to be that there's a few of you that are not sure how to find that. Again, there is an organization called the Mankind Project. So wherever you live, you can go to that site and you can find out if there are, meetings locally, or if you can join a Zoom meeting with some of the guys, which is whatever it takes to get that sharpening going on. Go with that. There's got to be guys in where you work, or where you uh, again go to church, or places that you visit that you do regularly, whether you're taking like hiking or fishing or whatever, or sports, especially sports. Talk to your coach if you have if you participate in sports. Talk to your coach and just say, hey, are there any men's clubs around here? Don't be afraid to ask these questions. I know it sounds like, if I ask questions about my masculinity, people are going to question my masculinity. That's kind of like saying, okay, if I ask questions about my car, people are going to ask if I have a car. It doesn't make any sense. So don't let the limiting beliefs, hold you back from doing what you know to be right and inside yourself, to help you develop the answers that are already there. Really, all you're doing is just, you know, uncovering the answers that you've had since you're a kid. You know, if you go back and you start thinking again, like I was asking you about all of the victories you had as a kid, and growing up in high school, in college, and then in your first years of working or developing your life or starting your life, there was a whole lot of things. I mean, I'm sure all of you guys have all kinds of um, you know trophies and so forth. Look back on that stuff and bring it back up, and go out there and make this a quest again. Um, Joe says, can you give examples of the most masculine men in history? Oh boy, that's a good question. I think the most masculine men in history in general were the ones who realized that they were leaders. In order to be a leader, the first thing you had to do is be a follower. And the first thing you have to learn is to be a follower. And if you followed masculine men, you became a masculine leader. I think, for example, George Washington is someone that I would personally say is one of the best leaders and masculine men in history. Marcus Aurelius is another one. If you ever get a chance to look at Marcus Aurelius' his meditations, which he wrote down, and with no intentions of them being public, the insight he had during the way that the earth was, the way people were, the way societies were at that time, is absolutely amazing. He's one of the guys that came up with amor fati. Another tenet by the Stoics is, you control how you play. You can't control everything, but you can control how you play. And another one was memento mori, which is, remember, we're all going to die. So live life. Don't prepare for being dead. Prepare for being alive every day. Bring passion to everybody in your circles every day. And once you make that a mindset, it just comes to you naturally. You can't help it. Beware of the people, whether they're male or female, that are going to say to you, why are you getting angry? Because they have misunderstood what passion is about. They've misunderstood what men are about. And those are the ones that are going to start bringing you down in a direction that puts all these questions in your mind. You don't need to have all these questions. So again, I go back to, community. I hate to keep hammering that away, but it's so important. Joe asked, should a masculine man be feared? Please explain. I think that it's okay for a masculine man to be feared by people as long as he acknowledges that they don't have to follow that fear. As long as he's outward focused enough to say, this is who I, well, first of all, to say, this is who I am, and then be outward focused enough to say, you don't have to be fearful of this. I might appear to be a little dangerous to you, and that's okay. I mean, it would be like walking up next to Mike Tyson and putting your arm around him and giving him a pat on the back. You might want to be careful before you do that. So yeah, okay. So he's you're a little bit fearful about him, but he's not a bad guy. He's done some crazy stuff. That's his behavior. But these guys that are in the masculine light, like The Rock and so forth and so on, the most current guys that are doing this, it's all a narrative. When you get the chance to know them personally, and not that I know The Rock personally, I'm just saying in general, they're really great guys. They want to share. They want to give you what they've learned. So don't discount and don't pass up the opportunity to learn those things. So Joe says, because one of the problems is we don't have modern masculine role models. Yeah, I would agree with that. That is a product of the distorted feminist movement in this country. And I'm not blaming the feminists or the women or any of that stuff. What I'm saying is we as men need to look at that and say, okay, this is enough. I don't, I don't need to believe this anymore. I'm not going to let this ruin my relationships. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to be in my being masculine. That's what people want. From the 7-year-old young man trying to figure it all out to a woman who needs a man and may not even know what that means. She just knows something is wrong. And as leaders, we need to make that initiation and say, okay, I'm responsible for my behavior. I'm responsible for who I am. I'm responsible for my actions. And then take responsibility. And then have accountability. Have men that you look up to, or men that you see that they have things that you appreciate, and you want to have something similar. You want to be able to have the most simple thing. You want to be able to have a beautiful family and a loving relationship with your wife. It all starts with you, man. You're not going to go find some book that's going to give you, directions on how to find the right woman. You have to be you. Then when she shows up, she will identify with you because that's what she needs and that's what she wants. And I hope you'll stay with your quest with Ukrainian women, because I'll be honest with you, all the checks and all the boxes you want checked, these women consistently check them all. And I invite you to find out. Check it out for yourself. Look into it. I'm not saying, that American women are bad or there's something wrong with them. I have, sisters. I had a mom. I have friends that are American women. My perspective on life is more European than it is American. That doesn't mean I'm not an American patriot. Believe me, I'm a patriot through and through. However, my perspective on life is European, and I appreciate that. And I invite you all to take a look at that. So Joe says, sorry guys, but on topic, I feel compelled to tell you this truth. Masculine men, regardless of looks, bank account, can be successful quickly attracting a traditional wife. Yes, absolutely. And I invite you to give us a chance to show you that that's the truth, that that's the case. This isn't a sales pitch. This is coming from a client and a coach, and someone who is speaking to you sincerely, who really wants you to be successful. It's my commitment to you that you be successful and that you define that success. So it's been almost an hour, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to sign off. I don't know. Maybe you guys are going, finally get rid of that guy. Hopefully not. I hope you've enjoyed this. Again, thank you for all listening. God bless you all.